Contrary to what that very annoying family member of yours tells you, being cheap is indeed an addiction that needs to be addressed. Ask me how I know. However, what most people do not understand about this addiction, it colors every aspect of one's life, even when one is trying to do something seemingly adult, like buying a Porsche. So a 2.9 twin turbocharged V6 in a Porsche. That should sound awfully familiar because we've driven the exact same engine in Cayennes, Panameras, and other Porsche Macans. This flavor, 375 horsepower, 383 pound-feet of torque. As a basis of comparison to the Macan Turbo that we've already driven, this same exact engine puts out 434 horsepower and 405 pound-feet of torque. So what's the difference? I can't honestly tell you it's a difference in the size of the impeller wheel, like the jump from the 992 Turbo to the 992 Turbo S. Here it's most likely a change in the ECU mapping that also impacts the boost pressure. Whatever the output, drives all four wheels through a 7-speed PDK. Fuel economy is kind of a thing here. It's 17, 22, 19 combined. But more importantly to you and I are the performance figures, and here, surprisingly, it does not give up a lot to the Macan Turbo. Great example is 0 to 60. A Macan Turbo will do 4.1 with Sport Quad. This one is 4.7. VMAX in a Macan Turbo is 167. This is 162 miles an hour. So yes, this is indeed a German SUV, but surprisingly it is not 5,000 pounds. It's quite a bit lower than that, 4,370 pounds, or depending on how you express your weights and measures, 1,982 kilograms. With that Sport Plus. Oh yeah, oh yeah, that is, you know, I've always been a big fan of these things, got to drive this before we experienced the Q5 on which it's based, and here the pulling power picks up about 3,000 RPM, pulls all the way up about 5,000 RPM, and it is just such a wonderful engine. This is the one we first experienced in the Cayenne in Greece, and there, I would argue, it transformed the Cayenne, but here it does a bigger difference in a smaller car that overall has a lot less weight to pull around, but then it has a second personality when going back down into comfort mode and driving it around town. It's as docile as a Q5 on which it's based. Something rather unusual kind of in the SUV world. And here's why I say that. There are very few mid-size performance SUVs that have this kind of range, meaning can be pushed this aggressively but also be driven on the road. The AMG GLC is good. It's kind of a weapon, especially with that engine, but it doesn't have this kind of balance to it, meaning the power with the transmission to be usable both here as well as down on the regular roads. The Mercedes, it's just more of a beast and has one kind of personality. An important note about the transmission, yes, it is a PDK, but it's not the 8-speed we've been experiencing in all those new Panameras that have been flown over from Germany. This is the older 7-speed. It's not bad, it's still magnificent, but there are times it does not give you the control over the transmission and thus the vehicle. There are times that downshifts are denied where you really should be able to downshift, so it doesn't have that great feel of like complete manual control when you're pushing it aggressively. Being you and I have driven practically every flavor of Porsche Macan, I will let you go through the back catalog to seek out previous episodes where we go through the name, rank, and serial number of double wishbones in the front and self-tracking trapezoidal link in the rear. Instead, today we are going to discuss expensive brake options. You see, this vehicle, it is not equipped with carbon ceramic rotors, rather it is equipped with the Porsche surface-coated brake option. Now before we get to that, I have to answer the question, why are carbon ceramic rotors so expensive? The answer being the manufacturing process. You see, to create those rotors, one has to shoot silicon resin through grains of carbon fiber, then shape that into a disc with vents in it, then bake that at like 1,700 degrees, then coat that with ceramic. That entire process takes like almost 3 weeks. That's why they cost $10,000. Alternatively, the manufacturing process of a surface-coated brake is shooting tiny tungsten carbide particles at very high speeds onto a cast iron disc. That in turn creates a 100 micrometer coating around the disc. Now that coating alone is not the only reason why the rotors have a mirror-like finish. It's also due in part to the brake pads. You see, the brake pads are not the usual metallic brake pads one would find in a serial production car. Instead, they're white. So as the vehicle is braking, the brake pads polished the rotors, giving it the mirror-like finish. Now that's all fine and good, but what the hell does that mean to you and I? Because with carbon ceramic rotors, yes, they're expensive, but at least we know what we're getting there. Less unsprung weight and better brake performance. Here are three things that are going on. Number one, the rotors themselves are 10% stronger. Then there's the life of the rotors, supposedly 30% longer lasting. And then the most important thing, at least to an OCD guy like me, 90% less brake dust. And if I'm taking a stab in the dark here, it has everything to do with those different brake pads. Okay, so now that we know why they're special, how do they work out here? Answer being, in some cases, they sit right between the carbon ceramic and the basic steel rotor option as the engineers intended. In other areas, it's much closer to the steel rotor option. Like, for example, the pedal modulation, this very much is reminiscent of a steel rotor Macan. However, in terms of brake performance, it's kind of right in between the carbon ceramic and the steel rotor option. Like, for example, I feel more confident pushing the car more aggressively on roads like this because I feel the stopping power will kind of back it up. Not so with other steel rotor equipped performance mid-size SUVs like this. Now, for the avoidance of doubt, the carbon ceramic option is indeed sharper, but this is where we have to be very honest with one another. This is a vehicle that will most likely never see track duty, so why would one spend 10 grand on brakes for a vehicle that really is going to be used around town? Now, being that we're out here, we might as well go through a recap of the rest of the driving dynamics of the Macan. Here it's no different from all the other derivations, and I believe we have driven practically every flavor of this vehicle. And yes, I still go so far as to saying this is probably the best performance SUV of any size one can be driving. And one of the reasons for that is there's complete control over all planes of motion, and even though it is a mid-size SUV, you do not feel the penalty of the higher ground clearance or the extra weight of the vehicle. And at that, the weight, it's not really a huge penalty. When you think mid-size sedans nowadays, what, 38, 39, 4,000 pounds. This at, what, 370 pounds more than that? It's pretty good, especially when one puts it on a road like this. Yes, it is indeed that time again to play your favorite game on the options game with today's contestant. Something you will laugh at me for saying, a bargain in the Porsche world. This one, the 2021 Porsche Macan GTS for a base price of $71,300. To that, we add the color. Now, this is the point of the game where I normally say whether I like the color, don't like the color, and make a bold suggestion to fix the wrong that was rolled into this hangar in terms of color. However, this is the only time where I can tell you that there is another vehicle that lives in this hangar right behind that camera that is the exact same color. So hopefully that clears up whether I like this color or not, and also would clear up whether I would pay the extra $3,120 for Miami Blue. Where we get into a problem is the interior. So much creativity with this option. Why black interior? And if you're gonna go black, why not contrast stitching or colored seatbelts? Which is a thing in a Porsche GTS, whether it's a Macan or other kind of GTSs. None of that respect here. That does not sit well with me. Anyway, we press on to a very important option, the Porsche Torque Vectoring Plus for $1,500. Then those coated brakes. Now, there's a benefit about those coated brakes I did not tell you about. They're not $10,000. Instead, they're $3,490. Then a heated steering wheel, $500. Then we press on to arguably one of the most important options for Porsches equipped with an internal combustion engine, the Sport Chrono Package. Why do I say that? Adjustable engine mounts, plus they throw in a Swiss-looking clock on the top of the dash, $1,360. Smartphone compartment. If I'm reading this correctly, they're charging you an additional $690 for Qi wireless charging in a $71,000 vehicle. Can we fix that? Then we press on to the premium package. Now, the GTS is already kind of like the value proposition in the Macan world, or actually in the Porsche world. It comes with more stuff as part of the package, makes the car look cooler. This is value on top of value. It adds things like the Bose stereo system, the Porsche entry and drive. That is the key in your pocket. Walk up to the door, door opens, you turn the Le Mans start thing on the left side of the steering wheel, and the car starts. Believe it or not, yes, that is optional on all Porsches. the Apple CarPlay, the auto dim mirrors, the seat ventilation in the front, the seat heating in the rear, and then most importantly, the panoramic sunroof. That is $5,000. Then something very important to point out about the GTS, the 20-inch spider wheels in black you see on this vehicle, those are fitted as standard. Then the seats. Again, on a GTS, they come with these better seats fitted as standard. They can be fitted with Alcantara seats. However, if one wants the adaptive 18-way sport seats, which I highly suggest in all Porsches, but those are like, what, $3,500 in a Porsche 992 that's not a Turbo S. Here, it's only $380. See, I told you, bargain. Then the only other thing we add is the destination handling von Leipzig, Deutschland for $1,350, which brings us to the total retail price of $88,800. In that case, maybe the car should be red. And with that, it's time for us to have the obvious come to Jesus discussion, which would be, why would one choose this over a Macan Turbo or a Macan Turbo over this? Because at the end of the day, they both have the same engine. It's just in the Macan Turbo, the boost is kind of turned up to here. Answer being, it's value. No, it's not money, and there's a difference between value and money, and I'll prove it to you. Money is, I want the cheapest solution possible, which I have been guilty of over my years. However, value is, what is the most prudent option to get the job done, to do what I want it to do? And there the GTS has a distinct advantage in that it's a better overall package. Yeah, there's a delta in terms of performance, but it's a better comfort package. It looks a little bit better the way the thing is spec'd, at least bone stock. And there I would say, if the choice is at new, it's GTS. The savings, the value is enough for me to say, you know what, I could do without the extra horsepower or without the extra torque, but if one were to change the question to secondhand, the used market, that's where things would change in my mind. And it's not, again, because of the power and torque. It comes down to the way the vehicle is equipped, and obviously the color, and yeah, I would love Miami blue. And there I'd have to say it's all dependent on what color, which brake package does it have, what seats does it have. So it would come down in my mind, what is the best value between a Macan Turbo and a Macan GTS, the one you are looking at? Because in the used market, I gotta believe the difference in price would be negligible. Being you and I kind of summed everything up in the car, let's jump straight into the wish list. And here I do not have anything specific for the vehicle itself, because I've told you this in many previous episodes. This is not only the best-selling Porsche, it is, despite it being an SUV, one of the best Porsches to drive. That said, my request is for the future Macan, and my guess that's coming 2 to 3 years from now, a totally new model. And it's very simple. Can we have the buttons that we have in this vehicle, the controls we have in this vehicle? Yes, the Cayenne and the Panamera, they have gone with haptic feedback. Yes, it looks lovely. I know the kids today love that kind of stuff. However, when it comes to safety, you need real buttons, you need real toggle switches, which this vehicle has. Can we continue that in the next generation of Macan? And I don't really ask this just because I'm a pilot nerd. It is because I'm a pilot nerd and the safety aspect of it. And this is where I turn the episode around to you guys to opine in the comments below, or via our social media, MotoManTV, all one word, MotoManTV, all one word, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. What else should we be adding to the wish list here? And with that, there's only one other thing I have to say here. I have really enjoyed having a Miami blue Porsche again. And can I make another request here? Next Taycan that turns up here in the hangar, not pink, perhaps Miami blue. Until I see you in the next episode, bis später.